In this video, we will learn how to multiply polynomials. So here in this first example, you're going to see that we're going to multiply one single polynomial, which is out here outside of the parentheses, by a larger polynomial, which is inside of the parentheses. And you should know at this point that the easiest way to multiply these two polynomials together is to use the distributive property. So we're going to take, 2x cubed and multiply it by, there's a 1 here, so we have 1x cubed. We're then going to take 2x cubed and multiply it by 3x squared. Then I'm going to use keep change here and do 2x cubed multiplied by negative 2x. And then finally we'll do 2x cubed multiplied by 5. So the first thing we do is we distribute out. And then we need to think about how we multiply these smaller terms together. So let's start right here with this small term here. So in order to combine this together to be more simplified, we're going to take the coefficients, which is 2 and 1, and we're going to multiply them together. And 2 times 1 is 2. Then from here, we have an x to the third times an x to the third. So really what we have here is x to the third times x to the third. And if I break this down a little bit, I get x times x times x for that first x to the third. Then I get x times x times x for that second x to the third. And what we can see is that there are 6 total x's there. So this is going to simplify down to 2 times 1, which is 2. And then x to the third and x to the third together, we can add those exponents to be x to the 6th. And then we can just repeat this process throughout. So here we're going to multiply the coefficients of 2 and 3 to get 6. Then we take x to the third times x squared, which would give us 5 x's, so it's x to the 5th. Then from here, we have 2 times negative 2, which is a negative 4. And then we have x to the third, and remember an x without an exponent is x to the first. So we have a total of 4 x's, so we have x to the 4th. And then finally, 2 times 5 is 10, and then we're just left with an x to the third. So note how this is different than combining like terms. Here, for each little multiplication, we multiplied the coefficients, and then we added the variable exponents together. And then from here, if we had some like terms, we could add them together, but here we don't, so we just stop and say this is our fully simplified, multiplied out polynomial. So let's take a look at a slightly larger example. Here, we're going to take a polynomial that has 3 terms and multiply it by a polynomial that has 2 terms. And so this is still based on the distributive property, but instead of just distributing one single number, we're going to distribute multiple numbers. So what we're going to do is we're going to take everything in this first parenthesis here, and we're going to multiply it by everything in the second parenthesis here. And the easiest way to write that out is to take the first term here, which is 2x squared, and multiply it by this entire term here. So I like to write it out as 2x squared, and then show I'm going to multiply it by 4x minus 3, or if you're a keep change person, plus negative 3. And now what we can do is we can take that 2x squared and we can multiply it by the 4x. So 2 times 4 gives us 8. And then x squared and x to the first added together give us x to the third. And then we can take the 2x squared again and multiply it by the negative 3. So 2 times negative 3 is negative 6, or you can do plus negative 6. And then the x squared is by itself. So we've multiplied this first term here by everything in this parenthesis. And then we're going to do the same thing with the 5. We're going to take the 5 and multiply it by everything in that second parenthesis there. So I'm going to take plus 5 times x and multiply it by 4x, and I'm going to do plus negative 3 here so I don't make a sign error. And then again, I distribute. 5 times 4 is 20, and then x to the first and x to the first, we add those together and we get x squared. Then from here we take 5 times negative 3, which is negative 15, or plus negative 15, and then the x tags along. And then finally, we're going to take this negative 1 here, and we're going to multiply that by everything in this second parenthesis here. So here I'm going to take negative 1 and multiply it by 4. So that's either negative 4 or plus negative 4 with an x attached. and then negative 1 times 3, which is plus 3. So I start off by multiplying everything together. Everything in the first parenthesis, which is here, times everything in the second parenthesis, which is here. And once I've multiplied all of that out, now I'm going to look at combining like terms. And I like to start with the highest exponent. So here I'm going to start with x to the third. I don't see any other x to the third, so I'm going to leave it as 8x to the third. Then I look at x squareds, and I see that I have two terms that contain x squareds. Well, those can be added together. Negative 6 plus 20 is a positive 14. So we have positive 14x squared. Then here we look at just the x terms. Negative 15x plus negative 4x, that's a negative 19x. And then finally the 3 is left on the end. So when we are multiplying out with big distribution, we're going to take everything in this first parenthesis that we see here, we're going to take everything in this first parenthesis, each term, and multiply it by everything in the second parenthesis, and then combine like terms as we can.